This is a Marantz 2230 that I've always used as a spare amp, but I think I might clean it up. First, I've got to put a bunch of dust off it because it's been living in the basement for too long and it never should have been here. I should have kept it somewhere better. Oh, dear God. Heavy 70s solid state stuff. I think to get the case off, the wooden case, that is, probably gonna have to disconnect some screws down here, probably the ones in the feet. Actively slides out there. Whoa. I'd say a good 15 pounds of this is that wooden case alone. Whew. It's a shame to see you get those scratches from it sliding in and out of the main chassis. I think these are the next things I gotta remove to get the whole thing open. Now this side is come free. And there is the inside, which is shockingly not nearly as dusty as I imagined, but the radio dial on this thing is the most kind of tactile, satisfying thing. It's a real heavy jog wheel, so if you want to fly through the dial, you kind of fly through like that. Next I gotta take the faceplate off. I've already grabbed one of those screws, but I realized before I can do that, we gotta have all these knobs. There it goes. Excellent. How well can we get right at some of these switches too? Because contacts in these are something that often goes off. Transformer here is buck wild. That's gotta be half the way, unless that's actually branded Marantz. I'm going to take a closer peek at some of the actual parts here. This is so old that I think it kind of predates the bad kind of capacitor plague of the 90s, and it's actually got a lot fewer capacitors than something new. You know, I only see like 5 electrolytic capacitors on there. Let's see. Nothing is bulged. I like that one. Left channel. Is the equivalent one on this side look terrible too? Maybe I just didn't see it. Oh, it looks brown and gross on the bottom. I don't like that. There's a question of whether I would have a matching capacitor on hand. I have a copious number of high quality audio capacitors for another amp that I was gonna redo, but I've got lots of things that are 50 volt, lots of things that are 100 microfarad, nothing that's both of those things at once. And it'd be nice to match it, but it'd also be nice to not replace it if it doesn't need to be done. And I don't know, is that leaking? I'll probably try turning this on and seeing if magic smoke comes out. If it does, we definitely need to replace them. This hole is power, it's plugged in. It gets power. All right, well, I brought this upstairs, just to run the radio and check the channels with a quick speaker output, and it runs. I suspect each side here, the discrete left and right amps, but whatever's up with those capacitors, they're not popping. Maybe there's just some corrosion around the bottom. I have to go buy more rubbing alcohol in the morning and make sure I can track down my contact cleaner, because that's what you spray in all the potentiometers here to make them less scratchy. Now, I started to look at this amp the other night without really having prepared. I got everything out, but realized I didn't have some contact cleaner to clean up the switches, something related to that, and my air gun went out of juice, and also on some isopropyl alcohol for cleaning some spots out. I'd really like to get rid of these scratches here. I'm sure this is from something else that sat on atop it sometime in the last 50 years. Some of this kind of old English fuller soapy polish stuff. Lemon oil, I think it's called. I think I'll use it on my hardwood floor the other day for it to clean up kind of a nasty scratch, and it looked pretty decent. It didn't fully do the job, but it improved it. Oh yeah, these scratches are much less white, at least now. So I took a look online and videos of people servicing these. The big capacitors at the side, I have some concern about these capacitors. They have this bad brownness around the bottom, but if I can avoid changing that capacitor, I will. Because perhaps this gunk here is just a resin that they helped seal it to the board with. Doesn't seem like the board's corroding. The legs on the bottom seem pretty good. Long term, I'd love to change that. The thing with capacitors is I've got some 100 microfarad ones that you could use because they're higher voltage, but it's fine if you go higher voltage as long as the capacitance is right. A little paintbrush with some 99% alcohol. And really get some of the dust out of the grossest parts of this. Now, the most important things that have to be cleaned are the insides of switches and dials in particular. All these dials up front. I think to get at, we go in from the bottom. I think those are all the screws on the bottom. Some of them were real tight. I had to put a little bit of lube on that one to make it loose. Oh, see, cardboard's been around for a while. Just to make sure none of this shorts on the metal bottom of the case, because I guess it's a lot of contacts right next to it. Getting into the potentiometers is going to be through holes here in the back. Alright, and this is the contact cleaner, which kind of goes into these potentiometers. Then you rock them back and forth to try and clean out any dust that's in them. The one wild exception being this guy here, which is like the mode selector to switch between, you know, phonograph, FM, AM. And this is a wild kind of like pagoda of different contacts, because I guess, you know, you're going to one source, it's going over there, the next level here. So I guess I'm going to put a little cleaner at every level on this one. and I'll need something stronger. Actually, probably need to put a knob on it to help turn that, because that one's, most of the other ones are enough that even with the knob off, you can give it a turn here and there. This stuff does not smell good. What the heck do I even mean by contact cleaners? Well, in the dials or whatever, you know, there are kind of two contacts that rub against each other. And so how high or low you want something, it's a variable resistor. And at one end, there's no resistance, and at the other end, there's a whole lot of resistance. But kind of the contacts between, say, that pointer and that circle get all full of dust after a certain amount of time. So if you ever, you know, used an old anything that produced sound, especially an amp or stereo or something, tried to adjust the volume and it goes, that is static in the potentiometer. That's dust in those contacts. And the whole point of this is to make sure that dirt is not in those contacts. This is why I'm putting an exceptional amount into the volume potentiometer. Gave some time for some of this to dry out, but these three potentiometers here, it's hard to get a good angle on actually hitting them with the spray behind this circuit board. And I think if I take these three knobs off, this can come off and I can get better access to them. That did loosen the board that all three of them are mounted to. Getting it out is very tricky. Very gingerly wiggle it out. There we go. There we go. Oh, excellent. I'm also going to use, right at the end of it all, this Clean and Lube. It's the same kind of thing, but I think it keeps these smooth and changes any of the drying out that all the contact cleaner has done, which is probably kind of a harsh chemical. I'm also doing some cleaning with rubbing alcohol. Some of it really aesthetic, like it doesn't matter if this plate is shiny or not, but like, because no one's going to be in here, but why leave it dirty? Maybe time to try and ease this back in. It's rewarding for these things to turn so much more easily and smoothly. With just the cleaner in too, it kind of made a scratchy feel that now is a lot smoother. I like that. And this, I shot each level in here again. So on the other side, don't use that as a handle. This is a neat antenna, I'm assuming, for FM. It's plugged into this board. Oh, this giant guy. It's the FM. Clean off the top of this RF shield. Now, right up here is the track for the FM dial that is really so satisfying to spin on this. Thing's like, weighs 1,000,000 pounds and it's got some good inertia. And this is what kind of changes your radio frequency down here. Spin nicely through, but there's a hitch right there. Ooh, a couple spots really where it's getting stuck. Once it's kind of a raised a ridge here. Once it gets past that, it's fine. Spent most of a whole day on very fixated on a very small thing because this tuner dial, getting it to spin and not hitch on things, ends up that the problem was pretty much this ancient, you know, early 70s strip of black tape that was put here to try and, I guess, maybe stop some of the light leaking up from the radio dial into the machine. But that's of no purpose. I've got this whole track nice and made smooth with some Captain tape here, which I also used on the bottom of the shield, because I noticed back there those things are only kind of protected by this little metal bracket, and I guess there was this little sheet of paper so they don't short against the case, but the adhesive of that had just literally fallen off, and that was just laid there. This Captain tape is something that's heat resistant and insulates against electricity. It's fine. In the process of fixing this, I ended up taking this wheel off. I ended up readjusting all this stuff. Oh boy, it was not fun. You might have saw there's a big RF shield over this. I took the whole cover off this thing, so you get to see the fun innards. And apparently I had this strung all wrong. The internet gaslit me on the way that these things are supposed to string together, because most models of these have like an extra pulley here and the order that things go on. It had been in order, but I had taken this wheel entirely off and managed to get it kind of turned around, and the way I had it strung last time was kind of up here, and it was not getting enough grip to actually change the station. So these fins are like what change the radio station as you move the dial, and that's super cool. It's still got to be calibrated when I actually am getting a radio signal. Here might be 99.1, might be like pointing to 95.3 or something. You'd have to like loosen these up and move it a little without that thing moving, and then tighten them up to line up the needle with the reality. But other than that, it seems like it's going through the range properly. There's no like dead zones. We're going right from the bottom to the top. The number of times I'm actually going to use FM radio on this, probably no, but you need that showcase piece working. Funny enough, the thing that saved me is the fact that I've been filming this stuff, and I actually looked back at a video before I messed with all this, and I could kind of zoom in and see, oh, okay, it's doing this kind of like gymnastic thing. So the shield's back on here, and it's kept in by that screw and one for kind of creating a little hat for it all, so the weird strings aren't as exposed. Should probably take a moment to clean up that beautiful faceplate, because that actually is something that people will see. A lot of gunk around the dials from, I guess, where you'd grab it, kind of turn it. I realized once all this junk around the balance thing, but I realized that's the one that has like a nut that actually helps it stay on. And now I have to get the wooden case on. Gonna maybe slowly try to drop it in. Portable workbench next to me to give me some height. Can't let things go all the way down because I can't crush the cord. It's getting tangled a little. There we go. Ah, there. That's not so bad. Oh, and all these turn much more nicely, especially the volume. Arrow still works. There we go. So, I can't check what it sounds like, but if I catch a station, the tuning will come up here. So if there's any FM signal at all, there we go. We have a signal at around 97.5. That's probably K-Rock, right? I wonder if Coast is here. All right, so I'm about a digit off, maybe. Coast is 101. That's, or is there something else at 101? Oh, 101 Coast. Damn, the dial might be pretty accurate. Oh my God, that looks so cool. Anyway, can't wait to have it plugged into speakers in a bit and actually hear it.